Today's lecture is about a school of poets that is called Metaphysical Poets in English Literature. This lecture is presented by Shafakus Sahar. The term metaphysical poets was coined or made by the famous critic Samuel Johnson to describe a loose group of 17th century English poets whose work was characterized by the inventive use of conceits and by a greater emphasis of the spoken rather than lyrical quality of their verse. That means that they were writing in a certain style that was like a conversation more than a literary writing style. It was like you are talking to someone or you are telling someone your ideas rather than the bookish way of expressing things. John Donne is the most famous of them. There are other names: George Herbert, Henry Vaughan, Edward Herbert, Thomas Carew, Richard Crashaw, Andrew Marvell, Richard Lovelace and Sir John Suckling. Metaphysical poetry is taken in the historical context. It means that we have to see what was happening in England at that time or at that point in history. We see that Elizabethan age had started from 1558 and ended on 1603. And in that age, the famous writers were William Shakespeare, Sir Francis Bacon, Christopher Marlowe and Edmund Spenser. After that, King James I came to rule England, and his era is called Jacobean age. And it started from 1603 and went on till 1625. Till the James reign. Shakespeare kept writing. There was John Donne, Ben Jonson was writing, Robert Herrick was another famous one. Then comes the Caroline era. It is the era of King Charles I and he was the son of King James. It starts from 1625 to 1649. In that period we see that Donne was still writing. Again Ben Jonson was again writing then. Andrew Marvell was there and Richard Lovelace was writing. And after that came the Protectorate. It means the era when the monarchy or having a king or a queen was no longer applicable to England because the Parliament was ruling the country and King Charles was actually beheaded by the Parliament. So Cromwell was the leader of the Parliament and he was called the Protector General of England, and that is why that era is called Protectorate. In the era of Cromwell, mostly the playwrights were gone because the dramas were not liked by the very strictly religious government. John Milton was writing, his themes were mostly religious. John Bunyan again with a religious theme, he was writing. And all the poets and the dramatists had stopped writing, rather some of them even left the country. Metaphysical poetry was very prominent in Jacobean era, that means the era of King James I. James I believed in the divine rights of kings. That means that he believed that the king has a right to be king because he is son of a king. English custom limited this absolutism. He understood that he could make law only with the consent of Parliament. That means that in the era of James I, he realized that he is not all in all. He is not a dictator. He has to work with the Parliament if he wants the laws to be passed. Parliament in 1600, they were still the instrument of the crown. Actually, they were like a rubber stamp of the crown. Whatever the king wanted to do, he did that. He asked the Parliament to say yes and they did. Met for a limited time and intended for emergencies. Parliament did not have very regular meetings. They met for a very short time and it happened only in the emergency. That means that Parliament was not very in the workable conditions in the times of James I. Was used to complain or reproach the monarch and to consent to new taxes. And Parliament complained to the king, but the king had all in all presence. Whatever he wanted to do, he would do. And whatever the new taxes the king imposed, the Parliament had to say yes on them. This is the definition of metaphysical. By itself, metaphysical is the reality beyond what is perceptible to the senses. That means that we have five senses. We can hear something, see something, touch something, smell something, and so on and so forth. But whatever is not known by our senses should be called metaphysical. It deals with the relationship between concrete forms and spiritual or emotional constructs. That means that in the metaphysical poetry, you have to make connection between the things made by nature and in your own thinking process. And most of the topics were about feelings and emotions instead of the events. Metaphysical poetry's qualities are: the metaphysical poets are obviously not the only poets to deal with this subject matter, so here are some qualities that define the movement. There were many poets all around. Metaphysicals were not the only poets at that time. So what differentiated them from the other poets are these points. Poems presented in the form of an argument. Their poems ran like two people are in a dialogue, and one person says something, and after that, like he hears the reply from the other, and then he replies to the other person who is maybe the audience or the beloved of the poet. Style was as if two people are talking. Approbation of wit. The metaphysical poets had to be very witty. Whatever they said should be said with the wit and the power of your words and the power of your perception. That means that you have to be very witty person, a person with a lot of words at your command when you are talking to someone. Use of ordinary speech mixed with puns. They used puns. Pun mean the word that has the same sound but the different spellings and the different meanings. Like sun and sun. S-U-N sun would mean sun, and S-O-N sun would mean a offspring of someone, a male offspring. But still you call the same thing sun. Use of scientific terminology. For the first time in the poetry, the scientific terms were used. The use of words from chemistry and physics and such was not prominent in poetry, but in that time it started. Paradoxes and conceits. Paradox mean the things that make a contrast. Conceit means that you say something that is very exaggerated, that is not common and normal way of talking. You bring about an idea or a comparison that no one is suspecting you are going to do. This thing is called a conceit. Metaphysical poetry, the conceit. Here is the proper definition of conceit, that what it is. A conceit is an extended metaphor. That means that conceit is a comparison that often relies on logic. That means that there should be a comparison because of some reason, not because of some emotion. Or manipulates is to prove a point. To prove a point, a conceit is used. A comparison is made that is not a normal comparison. When we see that there is a red rose and we say that it is a red rose, it would be a normal thing, but if you use a different word with a rose, not with a color, for example, winter rose, red rose are normal things. But when you make a metaphor that says a distant rose, for example, it is not a normal metaphor to use. It would be a conceit. A conceit offers unconventional, surprising comparison. In doing so, they encourage the reader to see the subject in a whole new light. Good thing about metaphysical poetry was that it was something totally unexpected. When they wrote something, it always meant that they are giving you a total new perspective. They are showing something in you in a totally new light. For the metaphysical poets, the most common subjects of these conceits were love, a lover, and God, faith. The most prominent topics were two. One topic was love for a human being, second topic was love for God. Metaphysical poetry shows Platonic love. Platonic love is a word that has been derived from Plato. It is a phrase that shows the thinking of Plato. Plato wrote in his book that in Republic that beauty proceeds in a series of steps from love of one beautiful body to that of two, to the love of physical beauty in general, ultimate to the love of that beauty not in the likeness of a face or hands and the form of speech or knowledge or animal or particular thing in time or place, but beauty absolute, separate, simple, everlasting. Plato's statement means that you love a person or something natural, for example, a flower or animal, anything. But that love leads you to the love of God. That is called Platonic love. A state will be achieved by you when you do not want the physical presence of your beloved. You would be happy just by being in love. It would be called a spiritual love. So, Platonic love is actually spiritual love. Metaphysical poetry celebrates Platonic love, and in Plato's Symposium there are two types of love shown. One is vulgar love, it means earthly love that relies on physical attraction. Then there is divine love, that is a superior love. It is above bodily needs and it worships someone's supreme beauty. The most famous poet in that era was John Donne, and he was the founder of Metaphysical School of Poetry, and he was the greatest representative of those poets. He was born in a family with a strong Roman Catholic tradition. He was educated at the Trinity College, Cambridge. In 1593, Donne's brother Henry died of a fever in prison after being arrested. This made Donne begin to question his faith. Roman Catholic faith is very strong in its background and also very narrow-minded compared to the Protestant faith. So John Donne, after the death of his brother, as most of the people start rethinking their faith after the death of a beloved one, he started rethinking that maybe he is not on the right path. In 1615, he gave up Catholic faith. He entered the Anglican Church, soon became the Dean of St. Paul's Church. That was a very high post in that time. As the most famous preacher during the time, he wrote many religious sermons and poems. These were known as his sacred verses. Donne was writing two types of poems. One was his love poetry, second was his divine poetry. Love poetry was for his beloved and the divine poetry was for the love of God. He was also writing prose. That prose was his sermons that he gave in the church as the dean of the church. And those sermons are considered very fine specimens of any religious text that we have ever found, and they are still read and are quite readable and written in a very individual style. Famous poems of Donne are many. There are some of them. Death Be Not Proud is a sonnet. It is about the love of God. In the sonnet, the writer finally proclaims that on the judgment day, death will be dead and it should not be proud that it is eternal. The Flea is the second poem. It is a love poem in which poet believes that a flea that has sucked the blood of his and his beloved is actually marrying them off. Now they are no longer lovers, they are man and wife because their blood is together in the blood of the flea. Go and Catch a Falling Star is a poem that is very cynical. It says that there are many impossibilities and the greatest impossibility is that a woman can be faithful. So it would be quite patriarchal in tone, but it is fun to read because it has a certain music. The Good Morrow is a poem in which the poet says good morning to his beloved, and he uses very unusual similes and metaphors there. Sun Rising. Sun Rising is a poem that uses pun. In the poem, when he says S-U-N sun, it would mean the sun in the sky. When he would say S-O-N sun, it would mean Christ, who is considered Son of God in Christianity. And this use of pun is very entertaining in that poem. No Man is an Island, a poem that shows that human beings cannot live separated. They are like a jigsaw puzzle and they are a combination of many traits. Another poet, George Herbert, he was born in Wales, educated at Trinity College. He was a member of parliament as well. Then he became a priest and he experimented with some poems that are called hieroglyphic poems. Hieroglyphic is the style of writing that the old Egyptian used, and he wanted to construct a poem like Egyptians wrote, from upside to down, with a certain text and pictorial quality. There are other metaphysical poets: Andrew Marvell, Abraham Cowley, Richard Crashaw and Henry Vaughan. This is a very short introduction